Damn, standard is genius. That's just it. I've used this brush for many years, but I have to say that the power of this brush, I've discovered the power of this brush not long ago, last year probably. It doesn't really matter. When the thing about it, and I guess the beauty and the genius about this brush is that, well, first of all, it's just a perfect brush for organic surface, right? Just the way it's set up. And on this example, we can just have a look somewhere here, let's say, right? And if I just do this little stroke, we get almost automatically we get this nice folding, right? This kind of nice organic feel by simply using this brush. Well, that's kind of, I guess that's the normal way of using the brush. I mean, that's how I use it on areas like this. But the beauty of this brush, I was like I just said, is that it can be used, and I use it on models when I'm in the lower subdivision levels. So the way the brush works is that it does the pinching as well as the cutting, right? So if we look at the wireframe, and if I use the brush, if I make a stroke, we can see what is happening, right? So I'm gonna make a normal stroke. We not only do we get the cut, right, but we'll also get all the geometry pinching into that cut, right? So the difference is huge, and for some reason, I don't know why, I didn't really realize that this is how it was working, the brush, right? But it's only after I've started doing creatures that I got to, well, understand the power of this brush. So if you understand this, right, what this thing does, it comes in real handy to just block out the forms. It's not just for the details. This is something that I've used it primarily before, right? But nowadays I use it for blocking out the forms. So if I do illustrate this on the rib cage, I would do something like that for the rib cage, right? And this just automatically creates the exact shape, the exact form that I want, right? So I don't need to use any clay brushes, clay builder brushes, anything like that, even though we can achieve that, of course, right? So this is a clay brush and we get this kind of ribcage effect. But with this brush, with just one stroke, we get a tighter, more organic looking surface. And perhaps this is just too low poly. So if we subdivide this one more time as well and do it one stroke here, another one just here, right? And then perhaps I can add another one. I'm not even thinking about anatomy at this point, almost not thinking, right? Just kind of blocking things out. So just 3 strokes and the result is just absolutely incredible, right? We get this super clean tightness, right? Just perfect organic surface without doing anything else. And if we just delete the higher subdivision level and if we subdivide this.
If you enjoy this content or find it useful, please consider supporting me by buying me a cup of coffee via the link in the description.
Right, if I subdivide this, we maintain this tight look on the surface, and this is almost done. At this point we can just come with a standard brush and perhaps add some leaping, something like that, right, where on the borders to kind of sell the organic feel even more. But yeah, this is just this was a discovery. It might be obvious, right, because when I show it and when I do use it myself, it does seem like it's the obvious thing to do, it's the obvious tool to use, right? But for some reason, it only, for me at least, it only came into production when I was working on the highest subdivision level, somewhere here, right? So if I needed to make some kind of a cut, some tiny little cut, maybe it was a face, and I needed to sculpt something, some kind of wrinkles. So if I take one of my old models and if we zoom in on this guy. So if I was working on something like this, right, I would just use the standard brush, the damn standard brush somewhere here, right? And by using it this way, I don't really understand that well what exactly the brush is doing. All I see is just a beautiful cutout, right? Beautiful cut that produces this round shape compared to some other brushes, for example, right? For example, the slash brush, which does kind of the same thing, but not really, right? It just cuts the surface this way. It doesn't really create this kind of nice round shapes. But this is what I was using the brush primarily for, right? Details like that. So just sculpting things in here, those kind of wrinkles. Even though, as far as I remember, this model, I didn't use damn standard brush at all. I think I was trying to experiment whether I can achieve organic looking surface if I use just a clay brush and standard brush. But still, this is what I would use normally this brush for, right? Those kind of finer details. But now when I'm doing characters, when I'm doing creatures and things like that, I use it almost from the get-go, or from the beginning of the production, right? Because this way I can just block out where the shapes should be, whether, for example, here where the shoulders should be. And the way it works, as I've explained, right, it does this pinching, so the shapes that it creates almost automatically, they're just absolutely incredible. So it's a powerhouse of a tool. And yeah, I guess I only now I realize why Pixologic have decided to put this brush as the default brushes, one of the default brushes, right, in ZBrush, because the absolute raw power of this brush is just the person who made this is just is either the best sculptor in the world, if she understood, right, what they wanted, right? They had some kind of a need for a brush, and this is what they've created as a result, so they can achieve the look that they want. Or if it was just almost like a coincidence, right, just playing with some settings and brushes, and then you end up having this kind of effect. I don't know which one was it. It doesn't really matter. It's just that the brush itself is just so absolutely incredible, right, powerful, that I think it's just a waste if we are using it only on the kind of higher subdivision levels, whereas we can do so much more with this brush on the lower ones, all the way down to here, right? Pecs, we can all do all of this stuff. And the other thing, I guess, I just to point out, is that I'm using this brush when I do sculpt forms this way. I use the intensity of the brush somewhere on 3 or 4, right? Because I don't necessarily want the cuts themselves, right? What I want is just is the separation of the forms, and this way, the pinching effect and the cutting effect, they are almost identical, if that makes any sense, right? So nothing of those two is beating each other, right? So I'm not creating a huge cut and then there's a little of pinching. It's a subtle cut and there's a subtle pinch as well. So the intensity also plays a role in here, right? So just a extremely kind of low poly cage that I'm working on, but I can still produce shapes that are recognizable. And again, if we subdivide it even more and go higher, the shapes are just turning into something more beautiful, and then we can refine it here, and then with some other additional brushes we can finish off the job that we are doing.